So it's that time of year again. I've got my notebook out. So it's Formula One, as I knock for my phone, it is Formula One driver predictions time. So I've done this for a few years now. And I don't do, the boring who's going to be 20th all the way to like who's going to be world champion. I don't do that. I personally think that's quite boring. And I'm going to be different, as I always have been. So I have written down a prediction for every driver. I've done this for, 3 years now? This will be my third year doing this. And most of the time it's gone down very, very well. So we're going to start with Williams and work our way up to the top. Albon and Sargent for Williams. Sargent, I've put down he's going to get points. I think Sargent's being underrated. He had a solid pre-season testing, which, fun fact, this is the first time I'm doing this after pre-season testing because I've just been extremely busy and I haven't been able to do this video. But yeah, Sargent, he's going to get points. Sargent, he was up there with Piastri in Formula 3, ran him for a title until, was it the very last race? So I think Sargent's got the goods. He's got the sauce. I'm never saying that again. And then for Albon, he's going to be a Haas in the championship because if you look at Albon last year, I think that Williams has definitely gone better if pre-season testing is anything to go by, which it isn't. I know someone's probably screaming that or being pedantic at the screen at this point, not in the comments. Maybe in the comments, you never know. But if you look at Albon, last year he was, if he wasn't in the points, he'd be like 11th, 12th, 13th. He'd be close. So I do think with the improvement of Williams, which is a beautiful looking livery, by the way. I do think Albon's going to be a Haas. I'm not going to say which one. Because I do think there's going to be quite a big difference possibly with the Haas drivers, but we'll get there when we get there. Next up is AlphaTauri, De Vries and Tsunoda. Tsunoda, I have put he's going to be the most crash-happy driver because I do think that the pressure of him trying to keep that seat is going to get to him because of all the, there's God knows how many Red Bull Juniors in F2 this year. There's going to be 5 or 6 cars painted in the Red Bull colour scheme. So I do think he's going to be under a lot of pressure, Tsunoda, and I think it's going to get to him. We've already seen he can be a bit crash prone and he's a very exciting driver to watch. He's a fun driver to watch. I'm not going to say that. Kind of like nearly most recent Japanese drivers like Kobayashi and Sato. They're very entertaining to watch, Japanese drivers, recently in F1. So I've put him down for the most crash-happy driver. And then De Vries, I'm going to go with the most improved. I think maybe he might struggle a little bit at the beginning, but I think he's going to be the most improved driver when we get to the end of the year. How I'll measure that, I don't know. I might look at that at the end and see if he has been the most improved. Whether that be positions or points or whatever, I don't know. But I don't think that AlphaTauri is going to be the goods this year. So, moving on to Haas, and we have the Hulk up first, returning after 3 years out. Yeah, 3 years out. He is going to be... I need to stop clicking my pen. He is going to be the most consistent driver in a good way. Hulk, he's always been known as that consistent driver, unless he's in a podium. Unless in that case, most of the time he nearly bottles it. So that's why I've gone for most consistent, because consistency is key, as George Russell said in that PowerPoint that he did. And then K-Mag, he's going to have more meatball flags than last year because he collected quite a few meatball flags last year. And K-Mag is not... I do like Magnussen, but I do think he's going to get a little bit more meatball flags than last year because we got a lot last year, and I do think this grid's going to be closer, which means there's more chance of a little bit of contact here and there. So that is it for Haas. Moving on to Alfa Romeo in a okayish livery, bit overrated for me, but here we have Valtteri Bottas is going to have the biggest drop-off of the year. He did have, well, that was mainly down to the car last year because he was a absolute rocket when Alfa Romeo was brand new, and he was up there fighting Mercedes, which led to RPM saying that they fired the wrong Merc driver, which is a little bit fun. And now I got cancelled for mentioning rocket powered Mohawk. Oh dear. So yeah, I do think Bottas is going to have the biggest drop off. Now for Zhou, I'm going to say he's going to beat Bottas in the championship. I think it's going to be close. I'm not going to say he's going to demolish him. We will save the demolishing for when we get to another team. But I think that Zhou, he was closest to Bottas at the beginning of this, not at the beginning of the season, like halfway through the season, and at some points was beating Bottas. And I do think he's going to do it. I like Zhou a lot. And, you know, look at the, you know, seasons down in F2. Most of the grids had were pretty stacked grids. And he performed. And I do think he's going to get better this year. And I do think he's going to beat Bottas. Now, moving on to Aston Martin, a team I am extremely excited about, judging by how good Alonso was in pre-season testing. But let's start off with the driver who wasn't at pre-season testing, Lance Stroll. Now, I'm going to say, because last 2 years I've said he's going to get dropped. I'm not going to make that mistake. I've learned from my mistakes because that's what humans do. So for Stroll, I have put he's going to be consistently inconsistent because that's all Stroll ever is. Sometimes he's a brilliant driver, and other times he's just absolutely fucking shit. Like, what was it? Like 2020, like, he was doing well, and then he just have like a load of shit races, and then he'd have a good one, and then he had a load of other shit races. So, and then like 21, same thing. 22 was more a little bit meh, but I do think he's going to be, especially with that Aston Martin, how good it looks, because we know going by pre-season testing and how good it looks. And when we compare him to Alonso, who is, I'd still argue he's one of the best drivers on the grid. That's me cancelled by Hamilton stands. I do think he's going to be more consistent than he already has been before. But now we get on to the driver I am most... Excuse me. Again. Another one? No. Now, Alonso, the driver I'm most excited for to see... He is going to absolutely wipe the floor with Stroll. He's going to have his way with him. I have just been cancelled again. He's going to whitewash Stroll in quali when both drivers finish. I have, like, Alonso, I think he's the only driver in F1 history to have two teammates and whitewash them both, which was Piquet Jr. and Van Dorn. I think he's the only driver to whitewash two teammates in F1 history. I could extremely be wrong, but I know he's very, very good at it. But I am really excited to see what Alonso can do in that car. And he's 41, and he's still an amazing, amazing driver. And I'm fangirling so much right now. But I do think he's going to whitewash strong quality. I do think he's going to be best of the rest as well. So I'm very excited for Alonso, as you can probably tell. Now, move on to McLaren, which is all the way down to the bottom because I forgot about them because their pre-season testing was absolutely appalling. So let us move on to Oscar Pastry Boy. He is going to have an awful home race because it is tradition, unless your name is Lewis Hamilton, to have a shit home race every time you go there, or just have a meh one. It is just absolutely custom, unless you're like a few exceptions of drivers like Lewis Hamilton. You have a shit home race, which is why I've gone for Piastri to have a shit home race, especially how had a terrible pre-season testing last year, McLaren, and they did have quite a bad one this year. Will they have sorted it all out by Australia? Who knows? But yeah. We'll see how Piastri gets on this year, but I do think he's going to have a bad home race. Moving on to Lando Norris, who looked very down. I actually feel a little bit of sympathy for Lando Norris. A little bit more than he showed for Ricciardo in Drive to Survive, didn't he? That's probably cancelled by Norris stans, so that's 3 times I've been cancelled this video. I'm doing a very good job at this, aren't I? He's not going to get top 10 in the championship, Norris. Bit of a stretch, I know. I do think, some of these, if I were to get most of these wrong, which I probably will get most of these wrong, Norris one is going to be the one where I look back and I'm just like, what was I thinking? And I do think it's going to be one of those cases because I think a lot of people think, some people think I don't like Norris. I like Norris as a driver. Him in the car, outside the car, I'm not very keen on him, to be honest, but that's just me. But if our McLaren gets better, we shall see. But I don't think he's going to get top 10 in the championship this year. So, don't think there's anything much more needs to be said. Moving on to the boys in blue, pink, and black. We have Alpine, the best buddies, Ocon and Gasly. For Gasly, I have got he's going to get 2 podiums. I think that Alpine haven't shown their cards that's in their hand. I have no idea what I just said. That is an awful analogy. I don't think they've laid all their cards on the table, Alpine. That's a better way of putting it. They didn't do any glory runs. They didn't surprise anyone. They just had a quiet testing. So we don't really know where they are. I think they're probably going to be relatively the same where they are, probably just a bit behind Aston Martin, I think, because they're definitely going to be ahead of McLaren, I think. Maybe Alfa Romeo. I think Alfa Romeo at the beginning of the season is probably going to be ahead just a little bit. But I do think Gasly, hopefully, we get more crazy races and more surprise podiums because we didn't even get a surprise podium last year, thinking about it. I know people are going to say, what about Norris? Norris is established enough to basically say, if he can get on a podium, he will be there. So I don't really count Imola as a surprise podium last year. So we didn't even get that. We got a surprise pole in Magnussen, but we didn't get a surprise podium. And I hope these surprise, podiums and wins, if we get some, hopefully they will come. And I do think Gasly could potentially be one of those ones where he could just be like, where did he come from? Twice, hopefully. And then we've got Esty Bestie. He's going to have the most top 10s throughout the year. I think Ocon, he's a very consistent driver, very clean, unless he is seeing the same car in his mirrors. And I do think he's going to beat Gasly in the championship as well, because he's established in Alpine as well. So that is it for the midfield, which is, I do think I think the midfield fight's going to be stacked this year. I really hope so. And then we get on to the top 3, where I do think the majority of the source begins. Hamilton and Russell, Mercedes. Russell, I don't think he's going to get a race win. I could be completely wrong on that. I probably will be. It's not that I don't like Russell. Like, Russell is one of my favourite drivers on the grid. But if that Mercedes is basically where it was last year, which I do think is going to be at the start, I don't really think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Russell, unless, again, crazy races happen, which I hope they do. But for Hamilton, he's going to get a race win. He's going to bounce back. I think he's going to be motivated as well, just like he was last year. Was he motivated? What? Yeah. That's stupid. Yeah, I do. I think he's going to do it. Be a shame. It's a shame his streak's come to an end, but I think Hamilton's going to bounce back. He's going to get a race win. Where it's going to be, probably later on in the season, maybe at the beginning, or maybe towards the middle. Could be anywhere, like I just listed. So that is the Merc boys sorted out. And then we get on to Red Bull. I'm going to save Ferrari for last because that's going to spoil everything if I do it for Ferrari, because I do have high hopes for Ferrari this year, as I've done for God knows how many years now. Moving on to Red Bull, Perez, he's going to have the biggest quality gap between teammates because Verstappen is a rocket ship. more or less. And I think that I think Perez is going to be close in the races running quali, but the trouble is with quali, he's not fast enough, plain and simple for me. And if the quali results and the race start impacting his races, Daniel Ricciardo's there, which I don't think Ricciardo's completely washed, as that's become a phrase now. I don't think Ricciardo's completely washed, and I think Perez potentially might be having to look over his shoulder a little bit. But Verstappen, he's going to get the most wins this year. Because I do think it's going to be a lot closer this year, because Ferrari have sorted out the reliability from what they've said. They've sorted out their strategy, because the guy who was chief strategist is now in a factory role, and they've got a new chief strategist. So hopefully those strategy calls, like Hungary, I'm still mad about that, have been resolved. But I do think Ferrari are going to be they're going to be more consistent this year. They're going to be up there. I still think Verstappen's going to have it on Leclerc in terms of the races, because I put him for most race wins, but I think it's going to be closer. Now we move on to my boys at Ferrari. Sainz, he's going to be closer to Charles. So close, in fact, that I think Fred's going to have a little bit of problem calling between the both of them. And I think Sainz, he's going to get more race wins under his belt. And I think he's going to beat Checo in the championship as well. And I think Ferrari are going to do the constructors. I do think they're going to be the double, because I'm saying Leclerc's going to win the drivers. This is a bigger stretch, I know, but I hope we always say this, because I'm a Ferrari fan. We've said this since 1950 probably. It's Ferrari's year. I do think it is Ferrari's year. I can't remember if I said it last year's, but it was looking good last year. Until Imola happened, because the first 3 fucking races were good for Ferrari last year. But I think Leclerc's going to hopefully step it up, not make a stupid mistake like he did in France. But Ferrari's not going to blow up like it did twice in Baku. And I think they're going to do it this year. I hope. I pray for my sanity, because otherwise I'm going to be uncontrollably crying, and my sister's going to be, diddums. Look at that, Russell got a win. But yeah, that is it for my predictions. If you enjoyed this video and stayed to the end, thank you so much. And if you liked it, the like button's down there, and feel free to like it. Dislike it, because you're just going to be, because I have pissed off. Who have I pissed off? I've pissed off I've pissed off McLaren stans, Hamilton stans, and another group of stans of a driver or a team. So that's 3 groups of stans that I've pissed off in this video. And, feel free to dislike that. And if you like this video, check out some of my other content on this channel. And if you like my other content on this channel, feel free to subscribe. I want 60 subs by the end of the year, and I have 54. I think. So we're getting close. So hit that subscribe button if you liked all of my other content. I shall see you in my next video. Goodbye.